Що є?
What is the future? What's waiting for us to take place? Will they be favorable for us, the events, and what will be our world tomorrow? What should a human being be to move together with the world, which is changing so rapidly, in the world which forms and shapes? Each achievement, discovery, each challenge and risk approaches the future, transforming dreams and fantasies into reality, and their creators into the creators of the future. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to KIEF Economic International Forum 2019. We bear responsibility for the sun and the rain, you for the flourishment. KIEF International Economic Forum. Creating the future. So, in front of us, the economic astral system and the smaller stars are rather bright, but some of them are rather big but dark. In the center, there are the economic giants located. Their light is the brightest. The whole system is rotating around them. It's interesting how the system will look like in 2050. Let us look at the trends of the global economy. The developing markets, so-called emerging seven, already up to 2050 will exceed the today's players of grade seven. The US and Europe will gradually lose the positions under the pressure of China and India. In the global context, the markets of the developing countries will stay the drivers of the growth. Up till 2050, the countries of E7 will probably increase their share in the world GDP from 35% to 50%. China can be the biggest economy, $58,499 billion of United States, which will comprise 20% of the world GDP. In 2050, we will observe the leap of India with the GDP $44,128 billion, and Indonesia, which will take the second and the fourth places according to the GDP level. Mexico can economically exceed the UK and Germany in 2050, and we will see that the share of EU in the world GDP will be less than 10%. The G7 countries will face the substantial decrease of the capable of work population. The Europe will change because of the migrants, and the developing countries will decrease the tempos of the growth when the economies will grow up. The expected growth of the economies of E7 will be an average 3.5%, and the countries of G7 will averagely increase for 1.6% a year. Yes, we know that futurologists are always mistaken, always. But the trends are noticeable even now. Today, the United States of America are the world leader of consumption, but soon there will be two new players emerging, China and India, who have produced for the whole world, but soon they will consume the goods in huge amounts. It will give them new opportunities for the development and will create colossal environmental, social, and diplomatic threats of unseen because new leaders are always dictating their own rules of the game, painting the world with their own paints, breaking the old and creating the new systems. The incredible changes have already begun. We should expect for a colossal layers of the level of life. In 2050, the difference between the third and the fourth economies will be approximately 325% in comparison with 175% today. The gap of the first three economies of 2050 from the outsiders will significantly increase forever. And we should all understand and take the rule. Perceive it that if I won only, it is a loss. The philosophy of win-win, when everybody has the victory, is the only way for survival. But what has made the previously dark economies so bright? And what defines the success of those ecosystems? In the beginning, we've showed the slogan of one of the technoparks of China: "We bear responsibility for sun and rain, you for the flourishment." Of course, it's an allegory, but it's precisely reflecting the national philosophy of the country, where 60% of economy is small and medium business, where 80% of the population is working. This same philosophy is accepted in other successful countries. And what about Ukraine? We have all the chances to become an equal player at the economic map. According to the forecast of the World Bank for Ukraine in 2019, the GDP has to increase for 3.4%, in 2020 for 3.7%, and in 2021 for 4.2%. For instance, the foreseen growth of Russian Federation is 1.7%, and in Poland 3.6%. Ukraine has an incredible potential. The task of each of us to make everything possible for its implementation. There are lots of factors of success, though there is one important principle. We speak about the attitude towards the entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs themselves are the unique, the most valuable fuel which makes the stars being bright. And everything will cardinally change when the society takes this fact. The entrepreneurs are subtly feeling the wind of opportunities, moving where they are expected for. They bear with themselves the light of impressive changes. Just look, this is a small list of the countries which create the conditions for the development of entrepreneurship, protecting the interests of their business with any way, from protectionist laws to diplomatic and force leverages. In the future, as before, we will wait for the fight for resources. The main resource will be the highly educated people who aim for the result and who know how to create the systems which are capable to implement the breakthrough innovations. And now in Ukraine we have cardinal changes, which are the fundamental base for the future. Our usual world is being transformed with very high speed. We, as a country, cannot use the obsolete methods if we wish to win. We need to study. We need to take somebody's experience and to use the leading cases on the practice. We should risk and create opportunities for the development. We should be reliable partners for the whole world. But the most important is to love. Yes, to love and to take care about their national business. And then our star will be bright 100 times more. For the good of the people. For the sake of Ukraine. KIEF International Economic Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky.
President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky.
Good morning. First of all, that was a very cool video, so I would like to say, well, you know, at this video we saw that up till 2050 we'll have two main players, China and India. But also, it was told that futurologists sometimes can be wrong, can be mistaken. Well, you know, honestly speaking, when I decided to become a president of Ukraine and when I ran for office, there were two other leaders. But the futurologists sometimes can be wrong. And that is why All of us must do our best for those futurologists to be wrong again. And between those two columns of China and India, this worthy place should be taken by Ukraine. Thank you. So esteemed, well, just a short speech of mine. So, esteemed participants of the forum, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, will you translate it or not? Or should I do that on my own? I can interpret if I need. I'm happy to greet you and our foreign guests in Ukraine.
Thank you very much, and your applause to everybody.
Well, you know, honestly speaking, you are now in the really phenomenal country. Without any extra modesty, I can tell that this is one of the most interesting and most attractive startups at the planet of Earth. It is Ukraine. Yes. 28 years ago, we imitated important reforms, constructed the shadow, non-transparent system, we know that, but in the result, Ukraine has become a so-called economic underdog. But the new Ukrainian power is too ambitious to put up with such an unattractive status. And when they say that our chances are not that high, when we are underestimated, all of that gives us some adrenaline. It adds some of the decisiveness and force for the powerful economic leap. Wonderfully, we understand that what we need. Those are the equal rules of the game for everyone. Cleansing of the court system and overcoming of corruption, digitalization of the processes, the reform of education according to the challenges of the 21st century, which are really significant and substantial laws for the economy, even when they are not that popular. Every day, together with the government and the parliament of Ukraine, we are implementing into life all of those law drafts. But today I'd like to focus upon what Ukraine does, what makes Ukraine the most attractive. Most attractive in comparison with other countries. And this is the Ukrainians, their talents, their skills, their intellect. It seems to me that this is our biggest treasure, and it has always been like that. But we always underestimated that. The Ukrainians gave the humanity the first helicopter, the jet engine, the artificial satellite of the Earth, and also Ukrainians have created the prototypes of X-ray, and by the way, the CD. I still have a compact disc. And the Ukrainians have invented the post office index, the technology of electrical tram. They constructed the biggest in the world airplane. They've created such services as PayPal and WhatsApp. So the people are our biggest capital. This is the Made in Ukraine brand we are proud of and which gives us a competitive advantage. Because the modern global economy, in fact, is the economy of talents. The economic growth in the world is taking place mostly at the behalf of the innovations, and the examples, the cases which I have listed before, they prove that Ukrainians are ready to become the first comers. They're ready to look into the future, and they understand the needs of the tomorrow. Ukrainians are really talented, they're really hardworking, they're rather bold and brave and ambitious and creative, and this is what's needed for your investments. So, invest into the people, invest into the Ukrainians, invest into our youth, invest into Ukrainian startups, small and medium business of each Ukrainian. And remember, today, Ukraine is that diamond which needs to be carved off the internal reforms and external investments to become the real diamond of not only within Europe, in the core of Europe, but all over the world. And I, as president, I guarantee that I personally am ready to protect each of your investment, each of your penny which you invest in each of our Ukrainians. I'm really grateful. It's an honor for me to be here. Thank you.